The dim glow of the candle flickered across the worn pages of the diary, its fragile script revealing truths long buried beneath layers of dust and silence. Eleanor Blake's eyes traced the words with growing intensity, each sentence unraveling the tightly wound threads of the Ashcroft family's dark past. The room was silent except for the soft scratching of her pen as she jotted notes, the atmosphere charged with a mixture of dread and anticipation. It had taken weeks of painstaking research, late nights poring over letters, and countless confrontations with reluctant relatives, but here, finally, was the key to the century-old mystery. The diary belonged to Lillian Ashcroft, a woman whose voice had only whispered to Eleanor through faded ink and fragile paper until now. The entries detailed a forbidden love, a bitter betrayal, and a secret identity concealed beneath layers of deceit. Eleanor's fingers trembled as she reached the passage that explained the murder the catalyst for a family feud that had reverberated through generations. Lillian wrote of a clandestine affair that threatened to destroy reputations and fortunes, and of a desperate act committed in the shadowed halls of the mansion. The murderer was someone no one had suspected, a figure hidden in plain sight, motivated by jealousy and the ruthless desire to protect a carefully crafted facade. As the candle guttered, casting dancing shadows on the walls, Eleanor heard footsteps approaching. Henry Carlyle entered the room, his expression grave yet tinged with a reluctant relief. "You've found it," he said quietly, his voice breaking the silence like a confession. "Yes," Eleanor replied, meeting his gaze. "This changes everything. The letters only hinted at the truth, but this diary, it confirms the motives, the identities, the sorrow that poisoned this family." Her voice was steady, but inside, a storm of emotions, rage, vindication, sorrow, and a fierce determination to see justice done, even if only in the court of history. Henry nodded, stepping closer to the firelight. "It's time the truth saw the light. The past cannot be changed, but it can be understood." Together, they pieced together the final fragments of the story, each revelation more harrowing than the last. The diary revealed that the murder was born not merely of passion, but of desperation to protect a secret that, if exposed, would have shattered the family's standing and legacy. The identity of the victim and perpetrator, long obscured by lies and silence, now lay bare. Eleanor's investigative instincts sharpened as she considered the implications. This secret, once unveiled, would ripple through the family reunion, challenging loyalties and forcing reckonings. She prepared to face the difficult conversations ahead, aware that the fragile piece of the mansion rested on the edge of a knife. As dawn crept through the stained glass windows, Eleanor penned a letter to herself, a promise to honor the truth and preserve the memory of those silenced by time. The family secret was no longer a shadow lurking in the attic. It was a story demanding to be told. With the mystery finally unfolding before her eyes, Eleanor felt a profound shift within, a blend of sorrow for the past and hope for the future. The mansion, with all its hidden rooms and whispered secrets, had given up one of its darkest tales, and Eleanor was ready to carry its weight. Yet, even as the first light of morning filled the room, a lingering question haunted her. What other secrets remained locked away, waiting for the right moment to emerge? The answers would come, but for now, the family's secret was laid bare, a testament to the enduring power of truth and the shadows it could dispel. Eleanor closed the diary gently, the echo of Lillian's words still resonating within her. The story was far from over, but the foundation had been set. The mansion held its breath, as did she, poised on the cusp of revelation and resolution. Outside, the wind whispered through the ancient trees, carrying with it the promise of change and the first stirrings of justice long overdue. The night was thick with an uneasy quiet as Eleanor Blake returned to the secret room, the flickering candle in her hand casting long, wavering shadows against the faded wallpaper. Her mind replayed the fragments of the letters she had pored over for weeks, each revealing the fractured lives and hidden grudges of the Fairfax family. Yet none had prepared her for what she was about to uncover. The antique desk, ornate and heavy with the dust of decades, beckoned with a promise of closure. Eleanor's fingers traced the intricate carvings, searching for any sign of another hidden compartment. Her heart quickened when her touch found a faint seam beneath the desktop's edge. Kneeling, she produced a small, slender screwdriver from her bag and carefully eased the panel open. Inside lay a folded letter, its parchment yellowed and brittle, sealed with a red wax stamp bearing the Fairfax crest. With a deep breath, Eleanor broke the seal and unfolded the letter, careful not to damage its fragile edges. The handwriting was elegant yet hurried, the ink faded but legible. It was from Lillian Fairfax, the woman whose voice had haunted the pages of so many letters, revealing her anguish and desperation. Eleanor's eyes scanned the opening lines, the cadence of Lillian's sorrowful words pulling her deeper into the past. "To whoever finds this," the letter began, "know that these words are my last testament, the truth I could never speak aloud. The shadows that have loomed over our family are darker than you imagine, and the sins of one have stained us all." Eleanor's voice faltered as she read aloud, the room seeming to shrink around her. Lillian recounted the events leading up to the murderer night of betrayal, whispered threats, and a fatal act born from jealousy and fear. The letter painted a complex portrait of Henry Fairfax, once revered as the patriarch, now revealed as a man consumed by his own demons and dark secrets. Margaret Fairfax, his wife, appeared not as a mere victim of circumstance, but as a figure of quiet strength, caught in the crossfire of ambition and love. The letter's narrative wove through the tangled relationships of the family, exposing long-hidden motives, a clandestine affair, the desperate hope of inheritance, and a secret identity long concealed. Eleanor's pulse quickened as Lillian named the murderer someone she had never suspected, whose facade of innocence had masked a calculating and ruthless nature. A sudden draft swept through the room, rustling the curtains and scattering loose papers across the floor. Eleanor paused, the letter trembling in her hands, the weight of the revelation pressing down upon her. The shadows on the walls seemed to shift, as if the house itself was breathing in anticipation. She closed her eyes, steadying her breath, and resolved to face the truth head-on. The final lines of the letter were a plea for justice and remembrance, urging the uncovering of the full story so that the past might finally rest. Eleanor folded the letter carefully and placed it in her notebook, her mind racing with the implications. This was no longer a mere mystery. To solve it was a reckoning with the very soul of the Fairfax legacy. As dawn began to creep through the tall windows, Eleanor sat back, the letter still warm in her hands. The mansion, once a silent sentinel of secrets, now held a story ready to be told, and Eleanor Blake was determined to be its voice. The discovery of the final letter marked a turning point. It was the key that unlocked the full narrative, a story of love and betrayal, of darkness concealed beneath a veneer of respectability. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and difficult choices, but Eleanor's resolve was unshaken. The truth, long buried in the attic's dust and shadows, was finally within reach, and with it, the promise of justice and closure for a family haunted by its own past. The heavy oak door creaked open, and Eleanor stepped into the drawing room where Charles Whitmore awaited. The room was cloaked in the muted glow of evening, shadows flickering against the wallpaper like restless spirits. Her fingers tightened around the bundle of yellowed letters, fragile threads of a past long concealed, but now unraveling. Charles' eyes, sharp and calculating, locked onto hers as he took a measured step forward, his polished leather shoes echoing on the hardwood floor. "Mr. Whitmore," Eleanor began, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling within her. "We've both been dancing around the truth for far too long. These letters," she gestured to the papers in her hands, "tell a story of betrayal, deceit, and ultimately, murder." Charles' lips pressed into a thin line, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. "You have no proof, Eleanor," he said coolly, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his confidence. The distant rumble of thunder punctuated the room's silence, rain rattling against the tall windows like a drumbeat of impending reckoning. Eleanor spread the letters across the antique desk, pointing to passages that spoke of secret meetings, hidden identities, and veiled threats. "Here," she said, voice rising with conviction, "you threatened to silence anyone who stood in your way. The night of the murder, your alibi was conveniently vague, and these letters," she tapped one gently, "were penned by Lillian herself, hinting at a truth she was too afraid to reveal." Charles' posture stiffened, his jaw clenched as if holding back a storm of his own. For a moment, the room was thick with the weight of unspoken words. Then his shoulders sagged, and a shadow crossed his face. "You don't understand," he whispered, the cold mask slipping away to reveal a man haunted by his past. "Help me understand," Eleanor urged softly, stepping closer, her investigative resolve tempered with compassion. "Why did it have to come to this?" He closed his eyes briefly, as if summoning the courage to speak. "It was never meant to be a murder," Charles confessed, voice laden with regret. "We were protecting the family, but things spiraled out of control." Eleanor listened intently as he recounted the tangled web of jealousy, greed, and fear that had culminated in tragedy. The confession was not just an admission of guilt, but a key unlocking decades of silence. As the storm outside finally began to wane, a profound stillness settled over the room. Eleanor felt the weight of history lift slightly, replaced by a cautious hope that truth, no matter how painful, could bring healing. Yet, as Charles' words hung in the air, Eleanor knew this was but one chapter in a larger story, where shadows still lingered and secrets awaited their unveiling. The confrontation had cracked the surface, but beneath lay deeper mysteries, beckoning her relentless pursuit. With a steadying breath, Eleanor gathered the letters once more, her mind racing ahead to the challenges that awaited. The mansion, its walls echoing with long-buried voices, seemed to watch her with newfound expectation. The journey toward justice was far from over, but for the first time, the path forward was clear. "Thank you, Charles," Eleanor said quietly, "for your honesty. Now, together, we can finally bring the truth to light." Outside, the last drops of rain fell, and a tentative dawn began to break, promising a new day for the mansion, its secrets, and those who called it home. The muted glow of the fireplace flickered against the worn spines of the books lining the library walls, casting elongated shadows that danced in rhythm with Eleanor Blake's quickened heartbeat. The air was thick with anticipation as she stood opposite Charles Whitmore, the man whose stoic facade had begun to crack under the weight of the mounting evidence she had gathered. For months, Eleanor had painstakingly pieced together fragments of a long-forgotten past, guided by the delicate script of lost letters and the whispered echoes of a Victorian mansion's secrets. Tonight, all those threads converged into this moment of reckoning. Charles' eyes, usually so guarded, now shimmered with an unsettling vulnerability. The lines etched into his face deepened as a tremor passed through his hands, "Eleanor," he began, voiced low and weighted, "I never wished for any of this to come to light. But perhaps it was time for the truth to be told." Eleanor's gaze remained steady, her journalistic instincts urging her to listen intently. "Why, Charles? Why did it have to end in such a tragedy?" she asked softly, her voice breaking the heavy silence that had settled between them. A bitter laugh escaped him, laced with regret. It was a night clouded by despair and betrayal. "I was a younger man then, blinded by loyalty and anger. The family, the secrets, they bound me in ways I couldn't escape." As he spoke, the room seemed to shrink, the oppressive history of the mansion pressing down on them both. Charles recounted the events leading up to the murder, the clandestine meetings, the whispered threats, the unraveling trust. His confession was raw, each word a step toward absolution and self-condemnation. Eleanor noted the tremble in his voice when he described the moment the fatal act was committed. A moment born not of malice, but of desperation and fear. From the doorway, Mrs. Agnes Hargrove stood silently, her aged eyes glistening with unshed tears. The housekeeper had been a silent guardian of the mansion's memories, her loyalty unwavering yet burdened by the secrets she had guarded for decades. Watching Charles confess stirred a complex mix of sorrow and empathy within her, a witness to history finally unveiled. The room held its breath as Charles finished, the finality of his words hanging in the air like a dense fog. Eleanor felt the weight of the century-old mystery lift, replaced by a somber understanding of the human frailty beneath the facade of villainy. This confession did not merely solve a crime, it unraveled the intricate tapestry of love, jealousy, and sacrifice that had ensnared an entire family. "Thank you, Charles," Eleanor whispered, the resolve in her voice mingling with compassion. "Your truth brings us closer to healing." Outside, the wind howled against the mansion's ancient walls, but within the library, a fragile peace settled. The shadows of the past, long concealed within dusty letters and hidden rooms, had finally yielded to the light of confession. Yet, as Eleanor looked at Charles, she knew that the journey was far from over. The mansion held more stories, more secrets waiting to be uncovered, and she was its reluctant chronicler. As the fire dwindled to embers, Eleanor penned the first lines of what would become a testament to truth and redemption, a narrative that would forever bind her to the legacy of the Victorian mansion she had inherited. The confession was not an end, but a new beginning. A chapter in the enduring saga of family, identity, and the haunting power of secrets long kept in the shadows. With a final glance at Charles, Eleanor closed her notebook, her mind alive with questions yet to be answered. The mansion whispered around her, its walls alive with the echoes of the past, and she was ready to listen. The night deepened, but Eleanor's resolve burned brighter than ever. The truth was out, and with it came the promise of justice, understanding, and perhaps one day peace. The mansion was silent, save for the steady patter of rain against the tall windows of the study where Eleanor Blake sat alone. The final letter, yellowed and delicate in her hands, trembled slightly as she read and reread the confession penned over a century ago. Each word weighed heavily on her soul, a testament to the agony and guilt that had haunted the family for generations. The room was dimly lit by a single flickering candle, casting dancing shadows on the walls lined with dusty shelves and leather-bound tomes. Outside, the storm raged on, a melancholy symphony that mirrored the tumult within Eleanor's heart. She leaned back in the worn leather chair, closing her eyes briefly as a wave of exhaustion washed over her. This journey, from the day she had inherited the mansion to the harrowing revelations uncovered through faded letters and whispered secrets, had transformed her in ways she had never anticipated. What had begun as a skeptical investigation into a forgotten property became an odyssey into the depths of human frailty, love, betrayal, and the inexorable consequences of hidden truths. Her thoughts drifted to Henry Caldwell, who now sat in the grand parlor, his confession still fresh in the minds of those present. Eleanor's footsteps echoed softly as she descended the creaking staircase, the heavy wooden panels beneath her feet grounding her in the present. Entering the parlor, she found the room hushed, the air thick with a mixture of shock, relief, and sorrow. Henry, his gaunt features pale and drawn, stood with trembling hands clasped before him. His voice was barely above a whisper as he recounted the events leading to the century-old murder. Each word seemed to strip away the years of fear and silence that had cloaked the mansion. The family listened in stunned silence, some with tears glistening in their eyes, others with clenched jaws and furrowed brows. It was a moment suspended in time, the heavy burden of unspoken pain finally laid bare. Mrs. Agnes Whitmore, the family matriarch whose life had been enmeshed in the mansion's secrets, sat nearby. Her hands, frail and trembling, clutched a worn handkerchief embroidered with delicate lace. Tears streamed down her lined face, a release of decades' worth of hidden grief and remorse. She had borne witness to the slow unraveling of her family's legacy, and now, in this confessional moment, she seemed both broken and strangely liberated. Eleanor's gaze softened as she approached Mrs. Whitmore, offering a gentle smile of solidarity. The weight of the past still lingered heavily in the room, but so too did a fragile glimmer of hope. The truth, though painful, was a balm, a chance for healing and perhaps forgiveness. Later, as dawn broke over the sprawling estate, Eleanor stepped onto the veranda. The first rays of sunlight pierced through the retreating storm clouds, casting long golden shadows across the manicured gardens and the weathered stone facade of the mansion. The air was crisp and filled with the scent of damp earth and blooming jasmine, a reminder of life's persistent renewal. She stood silently, the cool morning breeze brushing against her face, and allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The journey was far from over. The mansion still held its secrets, its history still whispered in every creaking floorboard and faded letter. But Eleanor felt a profound sense of purpose now, not just as an observer or chronicler of the past, but as its guardian and storyteller. Her resolve hardened. She would restore the mansion, preserve the letters, and share the story with the world. In doing so, she would honor the lives touched by tragedy and triumph alike, ensuring that the shadows of the past would not be forgotten but illuminated by the enduring power of truth. As the sun climbed higher, Eleanor turned back inside, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The resolution of the mystery was but a chapter in a much larger story, one of family, identity, and the unyielding search for meaning amidst the echoes of history. The mansion, once a symbol of neglect and suspicion, now stood as a beacon of revelation and hope, awaiting the next chapter in its long and storied existence. And Eleanor Blake, with pen in hand and heart open, was ready to write it. The air in the mansion felt different now, lighter, yet charged with a fragile tension that seemed to hum beneath the polished surfaces and restored walls. Eleanor Blake stood on the terrace as the sun dipped low, the sky painted in strokes of amber and violet, the garden bathed in the soft glow of twilight. The sprawling estate, once a place of shadows and whispered secrets, now felt like a fragile promise of new beginnings. Yet, as the evening breeze stirred the leaves and carried the faint scent of blooming jasmine, Eleanor could not shake the feeling that the past was still very much alive here, woven into the very fabric of the house and its inhabitants. Inside, The family gathered in the drawing room, a room that had witnessed generations of joy, sorrow, and betrayal. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words. Margaret Sinclair sat near the fireplace, her steely eyes softened just enough to betray her cautious hope. Henry Caldwell, the family historian, shuffled through a stack of old photographs, his fingers tracing memories that were now both a balm and a burden. Clara Whitmore quietly moved about the room, her presence steady and grounding, though her face bore the shadows of the secrets she had kept for so long. Eleanor observed them all with a journalist's keen eye, recognizing the delicate dance of reconciliation and suspicion playing out before her. The murder mystery that had once seemed an insurmountable wall of silence and fear had been laid bare, the truth finally surfacing from the depths of hidden letters and whispered confessions. Yet, with truth came the weight of consequence. Family ties, once thought strong and unbreakable, now revealed their frayed edges and tangled knots. Later that evening, Eleanor found herself in the library with Margaret. The room was dimly lit by a single lamp, its golden glow casting long shadows over rows of leather-bound volumes. Here, away from the others, they shared a conversation laden with the complexity of their lineage. "We've come so far," Margaret said quietly, her voice tinged with both relief and sorrow. "But I fear the scars run deeper than any of us can see." Eleanor nodded, feeling the truth of those words settle like dust on her skin. Secrets have a way of shaping who we are, even when we try to leave them behind. Their dialogue wove through memories of betrayal, loyalty, and the fragile hope that the family might one day heal. It was a moment of connection, bittersweet and tentative. A recognition that the journey ahead would be as challenging as the path behind. In the quiet of the mansion's back hall, Clara carefully gathered the recovered letters and documents, placing them reverently into a sturdy box lined with soft cloth. Her hands trembled slightly as she locked the box, sealing away the family's darkest secrets once more. Though the mystery had been solved, the weight of those truths lingered, a solemn reminder of the past's enduring power. As the night deepened, Eleanor returned to the terrace, the cool air brushing against her face as she looked out over the estate. The mansion stood silent and imposing, its walls holding stories of love, loss, and betrayal. She breathed deeply, feeling the bittersweet ache of the journey she had undertaken. Could this family truly move forward, she wondered, when shadows of doubt and questions of loyalty still clung so tightly? The road to healing would be long and uncertain, but for the first time, there was a glimmer of hope, a chance to reclaim the mansion not just as a house of secrets, but as a home where truth might finally bring peace. And with that thought, Eleanor turned back inside, ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that some echoes of the past would always remain, whispering in the quiet corners of the attic and the hearts of those who dared to listen.